Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Famous buildings are full of secrets. Tunnels and secret passages have played crucial roles in everything from espionage to love affairs. Whether it's the White House or the Vatican, these hidden routes have shaped the course of history. So get ready to go exploring. Hidden secrets of the White House. The White House has seen a lot of things, but its underground secrets remain a mystery. Beneath the grand facade of the White House is a world full of secrets and surprises. While the building is renowned for its presidential history, it also houses bizarre features and mysterious spots that most people have no idea about. From secret passageways to underground bunkers, the White House is more than just an old home. Here are some fun facts for you. While George Washington oversaw the White House's construction starting in 1792, he never actually lived there. The honor of being the first president to call it home went to John Adams in 1800, even though the place was still a bit of a construction zone. I'm sure we've all been there. Over the years, different presidents made their own changes, some practical and some just plain fancy. Looking at you, Chester A. Arthur. He had a love for stained glass Tiffany decorations. While he was in office, the White House was transformed into an elaborate spectacle, complete with disco ball wall sconces. If it was put to a vote, Chester A. Arthur would definitely be the United States' most diva president. But enough with the history, let's get to the good stuff: secret passageways. So despite popular belief, the White House isn't exactly crawling with dozens of hidden doors and tunnels like a spy movie set. The design was pretty simple compared to other big estates at the time, but there are still some things going on. There is one hidden passage that's the real deal. Beneath the White House is the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, an underground bunker built during Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency. It was added right after the attack on Pearl Harbor. This top-secret bunker has been used by at least 2 presidents during emergencies: George W. Bush on 9/11 and Donald Trump in 2020. It's the ultimate room to hide from the rest of the world. There are also a couple of tunnels under the White House, with one connecting to the South Lawn and another to the Treasury Building. So if a president needs a quick escape or just wants to sneak out for a snack, these tunnels might come in handy. But the White House basement is where things get really interesting and weird. President Roosevelt's determination to overcome his disability was evident in his daily routine. One example was his use of a private indoor pool, which was built in the basement to aid his polio therapy. Directly above this pool is the press briefing room, where reporters gather to grill the president. Who knew that a few feet below all that seriousness, there is a pool just waiting for someone to dive in? The pool isn't the only thing in the White House a president can use to blow off steam. There's also a bowling alley. Built in 1947 for staff morale, it became a favorite hangout for President Nixon, who loved to bowl late at night to relax. This isn't just any bowling alley either. It's a one-lane alley hidden beneath the building's north terrace. There are probably other secret tunnels and rooms the public doesn't know about, and that's probably a good thing. The Pope's escape route. The Passetto di Borgo might sound like a pasta dish, but it's actually one of the coolest hidden escape routes in history. This secret passage, built into what looks like an ordinary fortification wall, played a crucial role in saving a pope's life during one of Rome's darkest days. So what's the story behind this mysterious walkway? On May 6, 1527, Rome was under attack. A massive army of 35,000 mercenaries stormed the city, hungry for loot. Pope Clement VII was in a bit of a pickle. He was stuck in St. Peter's Basilica with only a small local militia and his private Swiss guard for protection. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The situation went from bad to worse as the Swiss guard desperately tried to hold off the invaders, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. While the brave Swiss soldiers fought on the basilica steps, Pope Clement was whisked away by the remaining guards to safety. How did he escape? Through a centuries-old, rarely used secret escape route, the Passetto di Borgo. Can you imagine the Pope with his long robes running down a secret tunnel? That's right out of a movie. The passage led the Pope 2,600 feet to the heavily fortified Castel Sant'Angelo. The Pope made it out alive, but Rome didn't fare so well. Of the 189 Swiss guards on duty that day, only 42 survived the attack. The city was devastated. Its population plummeted from 55,000 to just 10,000 in a matter of months, as many were killed or fled in fear. And to make matters worse, Clement VII was captured and held prisoner for months in the castle. He eventually escaped, but not before paying a hefty ransom and disguising himself as a peddler. The origins of the passageway, however, go back way further. The Passetto di Borgo has a long history, with its earliest construction dating back to 850 AD. It was later expanded by Pope Alexander VI in 1492. He even used the passage himself to escape the French a few years later. For centuries, the Passetto was in rough shape and was closed to the public, but it was renovated in the year 2000 for the Pope's Jubilee year. Now, every summer, visitors can walk through this legendary escape route. But don't get too excited. The Swiss Guard still keeps a key on hand just in case the Pope needs to make a quick getaway again. Each year on May 6th, the Vatican honors the Swiss Guards who sacrificed their lives in 1527, keeping this incredible piece of history alive. The Transfiguration Monastery Tunnel. Dare to venture into the heart of Bulgaria's Transfiguration Monastery? A big green door, a hidden tunnel, rumored to lead to a place unknown, awaits those brave enough to uncover its secrets. The Transfiguration Monastery, located in Samovodene, Bulgaria, isn't just a beautiful historic building with cool artwork and mysterious vibes. It also has a hidden tunnel with a story of its own. And who doesn't love a secret tunnel, am I right? This monastery is already full of spooky charm, with crumbling buildings, old gravestones, and eerie crypts. But the real mystery lies just a little downhill from the monastery, where during the winter, when the leaves fall, a strange green metal door appears on the roadside. If you didn't know any better, you might miss it completely during the other seasons. So what's the deal with this door? Well, it leads to a tunnel, but no one seems to know why it's there or when it was built. Locals are stumped. Most people think it's a Cold War relic, maybe some kind of secret bunker, but the truth is unclear. If you're brave enough, you can park your car nearby, push through the bushes, and pull open the big green door. With a flashlight in hand, you'll see the tunnel stretching into the darkness. Venturing inside, it's a peaceful, quiet place. The tunnel is straight as an arrow and goes about 200 to 260 feet before it's blocked by a pile of rubble. What's beyond the rubble? Nobody knows. The tunnel's construction seems solid, and strangely there is no graffiti or damage, aside from the collapsed part, of course. The only clues left by previous explorers are small patches where fires were lit, and oddly enough, someone used pages from old mechanical manuals to fuel the flames. But this strange fact doesn't do much to help solve the mystery. The age of the manuals doesn't explain the tunnel's origins. They're just random old books, which are quite common in Bulgaria. The monastery itself dates back to the 19th century, established in 1825. Over the years, the building underwent several renovations, recovering from natural disasters like a boulder falling on it from the cliff above in 1991. That's some bad luck. Today, its interior is full of colorful frescoes, some of which depict the devil torturing and attacking sinners. Perhaps the secret tunnel beneath the building is where sinners ended up in the past. Or maybe it was used for something else entirely. What do you think? Do you have an explanation for this blocked tunnel beneath the monastery? Let me know your theories in the comments. The Palace of Versailles. The Palace of Versailles is a playground for the imagination, but it is also a historical landmark. The Palace of Versailles is fancy and enormous. You've likely heard of its grandeur, but this French royal home is also packed with hidden passageways, secret rooms, and even tunnels that are straight out of a mystery novel. What's now known as the Secret Passage, yeah, real original name, I know, was once used by King Louis XIV to slip away from his nosy courtiers to meet a secret lover. This passage is hidden behind a bookcase because, of course, in the palace's grand apartments. This narrow, sneaky staircase led the king right out to the gardens, where he could make a clean getaway. It wasn't just for royal lovebirds either. Rumor has it that during the French Revolution, this passage was used to smuggle people out of the palace. Today it's open to visitors, but only a few at a time because, well, it's still super narrow. Speaking of kings loving secrets, Louis XV took things up a notch with his Secret du Roi, a room so hush-hush that it's soundproof and can only be opened by a special mechanism. Located near his private apartments, this room was used for top-secret discussions, state affairs, and confidential meetings. With luxurious chairs, a fireplace, and all the coziness of a royal room, it sounds like the perfect spot for secretive planning. It's like a high-class spy room. Wouldn't you like to have one of these in your own house? Not for secret planning, but, just for maybe getting away from your kids for a while? Louis XIV wasn't just a man of romance and secrecy. He also had a love for the bizarre. He had a cabinet of curiosities, which basically was his own personal collection of weird and wonderful stuff. From a stuffed crocodile to a piece of the true cross, the one from Jesus' crucifixion, this room was an absolute wonderland. Though it wasn't technically a secret, only a select few were allowed inside. It was a major flex of the king's wealth and interests until it was destroyed in 1753. Now let's talk about Marie Antoinette. She didn't just have one palace, she had a little side palace, the Petite Trianon. It was a gift from her husband, Louis XVI, for her personal escape from court life. Think of it as her own private getaway, where she could hang out with friends and, as rumors go, maybe a lover or two. But get this, there was supposedly a secret passageway connecting the Petite Trianon to the main palace, allowing her to sneak around without prying eyes. Unfortunately, no one knows if it still exists today. Now, who doesn't want a private theater in their palace? Marie Antoinette did. She had her very own Théâtre de la Reine, where she'd host exclusive plays and musical performances for her inner circle. You'd think being queen would be busy enough, but nope, she loved to act in these performances herself. Imagine being invited to the most exclusive theater event in town, starring the queen. You better like it. But of course, no story about Versailles is complete without mentioning the iconic Hall of Mirrors. Completed in 1684, this dazzling room is lined with 357 mirrors. It was originally built to show off Louis XIV's military victories. But here's the secret part. France had to steal the mirror makers from Venice to get this room done because Venice had a monopoly on high-quality mirrors at the time. The hall's grandeur and the secrets behind its construction made it the ultimate symbol of Louis XIV's power. Did you know there's a secret royal chapel too? Tucked away behind a hidden door in the king's chamber, this private chapel was a place for the royal family to hold intimate religious ceremonies. Even though it was meant for peaceful worship, it is decked out with marble, gilded moldings, and a stunning altarpiece. No humble little chapel here, only the finest for French royalty. And last but not least, there's an actual tunnel running from the palace to the town of Versailles. At just over a half-mile long, this secret passage was used to transport food, supplies, and even workers without messing up the view of the majestic palace grounds. But its real importance came during the French Revolution, when it served as an escape route for the royal family and their supporters. Although no one is sneaking through it now, you can still see where it starts on tours of the palace. But even a secret escape route isn't really enough to save you during a revolution. And now for a quick break because it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to Angela Schoenthal and Penny Haas for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. The Winchester Mystery House. Have you ever wanted to live in a haunted house designed like a maze? I never have, but I don't judge. If you said yes, the Winchester Mystery House is the place for you. The Winchester Mystery House is one of the strangest and most interesting homes in America. What started as a simple 8-room farmhouse in California's Santa Clara Valley during the mid-1800s transformed over the years into a sprawling mansion. By who? None other than Sarah Winchester. the widow of William Winchester, the guy whose family made the famous Winchester rifles. After inheriting $20 million, she also received 50% ownership of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. Sarah had a huge fortune, but also a huge burden. People began to whisper that the house she built was haunted by the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles. But let's back up a bit. Sarah Winchester didn't just build this mansion out of nowhere. She suffered a lot of heartbreak. Her baby daughter died, followed by her father, mother, husband, and sister. That's a lot of loss. So Sarah packed up and moved from New Haven, Connecticut to San Jose, California for a fresh start. She wasted no time and started adding rooms to her new home for her sisters and their families. And boy, did she add rooms! Over the next 38 years, the house was under constant construction 24/7 until the day she died. Sarah designed the house herself despite having zero formal training. When she died in 1922, the house was still incomplete, with many strange features left for people to wonder about. Today it stands as a 4-story, 160-room mansion packed with oddities like 2,000 doors, 40 staircases, 47 fireplaces, and staircases that lead right into the ceiling. There's even a staircase that goes nowhere. Seriously, you'll just hit a wall. Sounds like a nightmare for anyone trying to find the bathroom. The house wasn't always this size. Before the 1906 earthquake, it was actually 7 stories tall. After the earthquake, Sarah was trapped in a room in the house's front wing. When she was rescued, she decided to board up that entire section of the house. Over time, people started believing that Sarah was trying to confuse or outsmart the ghosts that were haunting her. Legend has it that a medium told her to keep building the house to appease the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle. So did Sarah believe she was being haunted, or was she just really into architecture? Historians think it's the latter. She grew up around carpentry and subscribed to design magazines, so maybe the bizarre layout was just her own creative flair. But back to the mystery of the house. If you can believe it, there are still discoveries being made today. In 2016, a secret room was found in the attic, bringing the house's total to 161 rooms. This newly discovered space was where Sarah was trapped during the earthquake in 1906. Inside, there was a pump organ, sewing machine, a Victorian couch, and even some old paintings. It's like opening a time capsule straight from the 1900s. Even though Sarah Winchester's true motivations might remain a mystery, the Winchester Mystery House has become a tourist hotspot. People come for the strange architecture and stay for the ghost stories. After all, who wouldn't want to walk through a mansion with doors that lead nowhere and staircases that make no sense? Just make sure you don't get lost. There might still be some hidden rooms waiting to be found. Prama Castle. Perched high on a cliff in Slovenia, Prama Castle is renowned for its secret cave network and the legendary Erasem Luger. Picture a real-life Robin Hood, only this guy was a little more mischievous. Erasem's story is full of daring escapes, secret tunnels, and a rather embarrassing end. Built in the 11th century, Prama Castle looks like it's glued to the side of a mountain. And it sort of is, parts of it extending into the cave behind it. So naturally, it became the perfect hideout for our rebellious knight, Erasem. According to legend, Erasem got into some hot water with the Holy Roman Empire after killing the commander of the imperial army at a party. Why did he do that? Apparently, the commander insulted his friend, so naturally Erasem challenged him to a duel and took him out. The problem was that the guy he killed was related to Emperor Frederick III, who didn't take too kindly to the whole murder thing. From then on out, Erasem was branded a robber baron or a medieval outlaw and fled to his so-called unconquerable castle in Prama. But the emperor wasn't about to let him just chill in a castle. No, Frederick sent his army to hunt Erasem down. The emperor's forces besieged the castle for over a year, 366 days to be exact. Their goal was to starve out Erasem and his men. But little did they know, Erasem didn't seem to be suffering in the slightest. In fact, he was so smug about it, he even threw fresh cherries at his enemies to show that he wasn't running out of food. But how was he doing this? A secret tunnel, of course. Arizim had a hidden passage leading from the castle to the nearby village of Vipava. This allowed him to grab supplies while the emperor's soldiers scratched their heads, wondering why he wasn't starving to death. To add insult to injury, Arizim also had holes in the entrance tower of the castle where he could dump boiling oil on anyone who tried to attack. Talk about a state-of-the-art home security system. The emperor's men were seriously frustrated, and for very good reason. But unfortunately for Arizim, his clever tricks couldn't protect him forever. After over a year of holding off his enemies, one of his own servants betrayed him. The servant, who was likely bribed, placed a candle in the window of Arizim's outhouse, yes, where he went to do his business, to signal the attackers, and in a rather undignified twist of fate, Arizim was blown away by a cannonball while using the toilet. He was caught with his pants down, as they say. Yikes. But that is not where the story ends. The castle and its secret tunnels are still there today, and visitors can explore the 4-mile cave network behind the fortress. In 1991, workers even found treasure buried in the cellars. Arizim's coat of arms still decorates the walls, and if you're feeling adventurous, you can rent equipment to explore the hidden passageways yourself. Just be sure to watch your back, and maybe avoid the bathroom. What do you think would be the most embarrassing way to die? Let me know in the comments below. Track 61. Imagine getting an invitation to an exclusive party, not at a penthouse or a mansion, but on a top-secret train platform. Would you go? Beneath the hustle and bustle of New York's iconic Grand Central Terminal lies a secret. Hidden underground is a mysterious and exclusive train platform called Track 61. It's not quite platform 9 3/4, but close enough. It was never meant for regular passengers. And no, you won't be hopping on it for your morning commute. This secret track is tied to one of America's most famous presidents and the luxurious Waldorf Astoria Hotel. First, let's talk about the Grand Central Terminal itself. Built in 1913 by the ultra-wealthy Vanderbilt family, this place is more than just a fancy train station. It's practically a playground of hidden gems. We're talking secret staircases, private offices, and even catwalks made of glass. But nothing beats the mysterious Track 61. So what's the deal with this secret track? Back in 1931, the Waldorf Astoria Hotel was built right on top of Grand Central's tracks. The hotel wanted a VIP entrance for high-profile guests, like generals and presidents, who didn't feel like walking through crowded train stations. And that's where Track 61 came in, a private platform that led straight to the Waldorf's basement via a secret elevator. But let's get to the real star of this story, President Franklin Roosevelt, or FDR. You see, at first, FDR didn't want the public to know about his disability. After contracting polio, he was paraplegic and used a wheelchair, but he kept this hidden from most Americans. To avoid being seen in a vulnerable state, FDR used Track 61 when he visited New York. His special train car would roll right onto the platform, and from there, his armored limousine would be lifted on a massive freight elevator up to the hotel. And this wasn't just any elevator, it could carry a 6,000-pound limo. That's one seriously strong lift. FDR wasn't the only one to use Track 61. Before him, General John J. Pershing, who had recently suffered a heart attack, also took advantage of the secret passage to avoid unnecessary strain. In 1952, even presidential candidate Adlai Stevenson was spotted arriving via the track for a speech at the hotel. And rumor has it that there might have even been some wild parties down there. Rumors say that Andy Warhol hosted an underground bash on the track in 1965. I mean, what better place for an exclusive party than a secret train platform? As time went on, Track 61 became less of a VIP hotspot and more of a forgotten corner of New York's underworld. By the 1970s, when Grand Central had fallen into disrepair, squatters started living there. They probably felt pretty special sleeping next to the same elevator that once carried the president. Track 61 and its elevator are still operational today, and while you likely won't spot a limo being lifted anymore, the track remains a potential escape route for presidents visiting New York. South Pole Ice Tunnels. Did you know that there is a secret subterranean shrine in Antarctica dedicated to a fish? Well, it's true, but who built it and why? Hidden under the Amundsen Scott Research Station are ice tunnels. But these aren't just any tunnels. They are home to shrines, memorials, and even an ancient fish. That's right, a fish. The Amundsen Scott Station was founded in 1956, and while it started as a tiny base, it's now a bustling research hub. Hundreds of scientists and support staff work there, trying to make sense of our planet's coldest, harshest environment. But here's the thing. Most people don't know that underneath all those fancy labs and even an airport with an ice runway, there is a web of ice tunnels carved deep into the ground. These tunnels were completed in 2002, and they serve a practical purpose, moving fresh water and waste around the station. You might think, okay, that sounds normal. What's the weird part? Well, I won't leave you in suspense any longer. Over the years, brave and probably very cold station workers have ventured into the tunnels, where the temperature sits at a freezing -60 degrees Fahrenheit. And while there, they started creating personal memorials. Some are serious, marking big projects or events, while others are just plain goofy. One of the most bizarre monuments in these frozen tunnels is a white sturgeon. That's the fish I was talking about. In 1992, this poor sturgeon was supposed to be sent to a Russian station called Vostok. But guess what? The Russians decided they didn't want it, so they gifted it to American scientists. After sitting untouched in a freezer for months, the sturgeon got tossed out. Luckily, a garbage crew thought it was too cool to just throw it away, so the fish embarked on a grand journey across Antarctica, and eventually it ended up in the ice tunnels beneath the South Pole. Now it sits on a ledge in the tunnels, greeting visitors with its frozen fish lips. Café Papanayland. Have you ever dreamed of enjoying a slice of apple pie while exploring a secret underground tunnel? At Café Papanayland in Amsterdam, you can do just that. On the surface, the cafe seems like the perfect cozy spot to grab a slice of pie. It's one of those traditional brown cafes, known for its warm, inviting atmosphere with dark wooden walls and soft lighting. But there is more going on under those cozy vibes. Underneath the cafe lies a secret tunnel with a hidden history connected to religious resistance. Let's go back in time to the 16th and 17th centuries during the Dutch Protestant Reformation. At that time, Catholicism was outlawed, and Catholics had to worship in secret, sometimes in hidden churches tucked away in people's homes. One famous example is the Our Lord in the Attic Church, which is, you guessed it, hidden in an attic. And here's where Café Papanayland gets involved. It was part of this underground Catholic resistance. There was a tunnel that ran beneath a canal near the Jordan neighborhood in Amsterdam, where secret churchgoers could slip in unnoticed to attend Catholic services. This tunnel opened up beneath the very building that now houses the cafe. And if you're wondering about the cafe's name, Papanayland actually means Papist's Island. Back then, papist was a term used for Roman Catholics because of their loyalty to the Pope. So the building itself was a safe haven for Catholics during those dangerous times. Today, Café Papanayland is most famous for its legendary apple pie, which many claim is the best in Amsterdam. Visitors say the pie has a flaky golden crust filled with perfectly spiced apples and cinnamon, all topped off with a fluffy dollop of whipped cream. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. If you ever get a chance to visit, don't forget to check out the secret history hiding beneath your feet. There's a small green barred gate near the stairs to the basement that leads to the old tunnel entrance, although it might be hiding behind a broom or some cleaning supplies. Putin's not-so-secret palace. Vladimir Putin acts as if he isn't scared of anything. But if that's the case, why is there a network of subterranean passageways beneath his secret palace near the Black Sea? And why does he have a secret palace to begin with? Beneath the lavish building called Gelendzhik Palace, there is a hidden world of bunkers and tunnels built to keep the Russian president safe. just in case things get a little chaotic. The palace itself is a $1 billion complex that covers a massive 190,000 square feet. The palace has its own church, a casino, an ice rink, and even a hookah lounge. Who would have thought that Putin was into that sort of thing? The palace is basically the ultimate dream house, if your dream includes some serious James Bond villain vibes, but that's just the surface. The really interesting parts of this place lie below ground. Around 164 feet under the palace is where things get really wild. Back in the early 2010s, a construction company accidentally revealed diagrams of a bunker system. It had 2 huge tunnels, both designed for protection in case of revolution, war, or any other emergency Putin might face. These tunnels aren't just simple escape routes, they are fortified with 15-inch thick concrete walls and freshwater supplies, as well as ventilation and fire systems. It is the ultimate survival bunker. What's even cooler, or maybe creepier, is that one of the tunnels leads directly to the beach. So, in case things get rough, Putin could theoretically take a quick elevator ride from his palace, stroll through the tunnels, and pop out on the shore. Who knew that beach vacations could be part of an escape plan? The story behind these tunnels was revealed by Alexei Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation. The details started spreading like wildfire when a group of Russian diggers, basically urban explorers who love sneaking into off-limits places, got their hands on the blueprints. They are the ones who helped expose the secret underground world. When news of this place first dropped in 2021, thousands of Russians protested. They carried golden toilet brushes as a nod to the rumored $930 toilet brush supposedly found inside. That's one pricey piece of bathroom decor. Though Putin denies owning the palace, which is exactly what someone who does own the palace would say, the heavy scrutiny, no-fly zones, and massive underground escape routes say otherwise.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
The Japanese Reptile Temple. The Horyuji Nara Temple is one of the most mysterious historical places in Japan. It seems like a perfectly ordinary temple, only it was once home to a weird reptilian statue. Some say the reptilian statue is direct evidence of another advanced race having once visited Earth, likely from somewhere beyond the stars. The temple itself was once one of the 7 great temples in Ikaruga, founded in 607 by Prince Shotoku. Rumor has it that 1400 years ago, the prince had an encounter with a lizard creature from outer space. Following the encounter, the prince had a statue built in the reptile's honor and placed it inside the temple. The statue truly does look like someone from a race of lizard-like humanoids. It has ordinary arms and legs. Its body is shaped just like any man, but its head is that of a humanoid reptile, with deep-set eyes and a lizard's mouth. It also appears to be wearing some kind of suit, or at least a piece of armor around its torso. The reptile statue is definitely weird, to say the least. However, mysteriously, in 2017, the statue was removed from public view at the Buddhist temple. Since then, nobody knows what's happened to it. Peña de Huayca. Peña de Huayca in Colombia has been labeled the most mysterious mountain in the Americas. Thousands of people flock to the mountain every week to witness the UFOs that seem to be drawn to this place like a magnet. It's just outside the city of Bogotá and has been home to the Muisca Indians for hundreds of years. Ancient legend has it that the Muisca Indians worshiped the mountain as a god and even made sacrifices in its honor. Throughout the years, the mountain has seen its fair share of blood. After the days of sacrifices, there was even more death and misery. It was on the slopes of the mountain where the indigenous people fell on their own swords in a final act of dignity before being conquered by Spanish invaders. Some believe the energy of all this death has seeped into Peña de Huayca, making it a place of great power. One of these people is systems engineer William Chavez Ariza, who has been visiting the mountain for over 30 years, studying paranormal phenomenon. William says the aliens are drawn to the mountain inexplicably, and that he's seen on multiple occasions plate-shaped lights circulating around the peak. The Evans Culture Mounds. At the edge of Monroe, Louisiana, there is an archaeological site that dates back almost 5,400 years. Here you can find 11 massive earthen mounds connected by tall ridges. The site is considered one of the oldest preserved earthworks from the Archaic period in the United States, predating even the Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge. This mysterious site in Louisiana was constructed by a society of hunters and gatherers known as the Evans culture. They lived here starting around 3500 BC, and over time they built such an impressive group of structures, archaeologists didn't even believe such a thing was possible. Diana Greenlee, an archaeologist at the University of Louisiana, says nobody thought primitive hunter-gatherers could be so organized or could create such complex structures. These people were hunters, they fished, and they pulled together wild resources. Yet they also built monumental mounds, some of them being 25 feet tall. It took the Evans culture about 700 years to finish their mounds, which makes it one of the longest building projects in history. However, archaeologists don't really understand what purpose the mounds were constructed for. They found all kinds of hidden artifacts here, things like stone beads, bone tools, fish hooks, and an antler used for sharpening stone knives. But why the culture spent 7 centuries piling up dirt into huge mounds is still a mystery to this day. The Cocknoe Stone. There is a mysterious place in Scotland hiding an ancient secret. The site doesn't have an official name, but it can be found in West Dunbartonshire. In 1885, Reverend James Harvey accidentally came upon a mysterious stone hiding underneath the grass. He cleared the dirt and shrubs away, revealing what is now considered to be some of the greatest petroglyphs in Britain. The rock art was left on a single gigantic stone in the Bronze Age. The stone measures 42 feet by 26 feet and has 90 carved indentations on it. 5,000 years ago, a group of early humans walked up the side of the hill, found a nice-looking rock, and decided they would cover it in strange markings. They carved spirals, circles, and indecipherable geometric decorations. They then walked away. The stone was forgotten, and grass grew over it until the stone was hidden underneath the hill. Archaeologists still don't know what any of the markings mean. The rock was covered up again in 1965 because the experts were afraid of vandalism. It was uncovered only briefly in 2015 for archaeologists from the University of Glasgow to do a quick investigation. They recorded the markings and tried to make sense of them, but the mystery remains unsolved. San Miguel Ixtapan. The site of San Miguel Ixtapan in Mexico is believed to date back to over 3,000 years ago. The site is most famous for its unique megalithic architecture, and the stonework at this ancient place is nothing short of remarkable. The stone slabs used in the construction weren't the biggest or the heaviest blocks of rock, but they were carved with expert precision. The angles and lines are so straight, it's hard to believe that any pre-Columbian civilization could be responsible. San Miguel Ixtapan is one of the few archaeological sites that's been explored in the southwest region of the state of Mexico. Up until quite recently, we had almost no archaeological knowledge of the area. We know that it was a midway point between the people of the Central Highlands and the cultures in the state of Michoacan, but little is known about the people who lived here. The city had its most successful stage of growth between 750 and 900 AD, then was mysteriously abandoned around 1200 AD. However, many of the creations here are much older, thousands of years older to be exact. Archaeologists discovered stone slabs embedded in the walls of a colonial church in the center of the modern town of San Miguel. These slabs were almost definitely taken from the ancient ruins and incorporated into the church following the occupation of the Spanish. The Spanish had a habit of tearing down ancient temples and structures, then using the blocks to build their own churches and cathedrals. What's really fascinating is that the stonework of these slabs look modern, as if they were machined in a factory using lasers. Whoever lived here before was a highly advanced civilization, but we just don't know who they were to give them credit. And now for number 5. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Janice and Amanda Banks. Thanks so much for watching and letting us be a part of your day. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Nagarjunakonda. The historical town of Nagarjunakonda is in India's Andhra Pradesh state and was an important site for Buddhist learnings in the 4th century AD. However, these days, it's completely flooded and hiding underwater. The ancient Buddhist town was rediscovered in 1926 by a schoolteacher who stumbled upon an ancient pillar. He reported what he found to the government, and archaeologists soon descended on the site and began excavating. They uncovered the ruins of Buddhist stupas, monuments, sculptures, and a huge wealth of Buddhist artifacts. Excavations continued all the way until 1954, when the government decided to build a dam. In 1960, the whole site was flooded before archaeologists could even get all the artifacts out. The researchers had to go underwater to remove the monuments after the flooding, then relocated each piece to the top of a nearby hill. That was where they built a museum in 1966 that was filled with ruins taken out of the water brick by brick. But perhaps the most interesting part of this sunken city is the man whom it was named after. Nagarjuna was a Buddhist philosopher whose name comes up a lot in Buddhist legends. Almost nothing is known about his personal life, at least no concrete details, but historians believe he likely lived in southern India in the 2nd century AD. Buddhist tradition says he lived 400 years after the Buddha reached nirvana. However, legend also has it that he lived for a whopping 600 years. Whether he lived 600 years or not is doubtful from a scientific standpoint. Still, Nagarjuna was behind the middle way philosophy. He created concepts of emptiness, denying his existence as well as denying his non-existence. He taught that ignorance is the cause of suffering and that everything in the universe exists autonomously and also permanently. Cañada de la Virgen. Cañada de la Virgen, Spanish for Virgin's Glen, is an ancient archaeological site in the state of Guanajuato, Mexico. It was only recently excavated in 2002, and the public were only allowed access to it in 2011. The archaeological ruins are sitting on private property, so this isn't exactly on the tourist maps. The ancient city is fascinating because it was occupied by a group of people that isn't very well known. They were called the Otomi, and they prospered in the valley of San Miguel de Allende for thousands of years. They built the city of Cañada de la Virgen following the collapse of the mighty culture at Teotihuacan, hundreds of miles to the south near Mexico City. But here's where the mystery really starts. Archaeologists know that the amazing city of Teotihuacan was abandoned somewhere around 750 AD. And interestingly, this was right around the time Cañada de la Virgen was founded. Some scholars believe the Otomi people fled Teotihuacan in its final days, ran as far north as they could, and settled away from what must have been an extremely tumultuous time in the Valley of Mexico. The Otomi people even tried to replicate what had been built at Teotihuacan. They dedicated the site to the moon, the sun, and the planet Venus. They also built huge pyramids that tracked the solstices and other cosmic events. But sadly, just like at Teotihuacan, the Otomi civilization would eventually collapse. They began to decline about 400 years later, and they were completely gone by 1050, and nobody knows why. Hall's Hill Lookout. Hall's Hill Lookout is a strange and unassuming place overlooking the Puget Sound on Bainbridge Island in Washington. It's less than 30 minutes away from downtown Seattle, and yet Hall's Hill Lookout has a completely different atmosphere than the big city. It's a place out of time, complete with a mysterious garden based on a 13th century cathedral from France. The garden labyrinth consists of 12 main circles, which were designed to represent the lunar and seasonal cycles. The labyrinth is rich both in Native American symbology and astrological references. And although it's not the biggest labyrinth in the world, nor is it even three-dimensional, some say it has a unique way of letting a person get in touch with their soul. Maneuvering your way through the labyrinth is supposed to happen in 3 stages. Along the path, one must go through the inward journey, the outward journey, and then there's a spot at the end for deep meditation. The Washington Labyrinth is in the middle of a complex network of paths, stone sculptures, beautiful gardens, and a gigantic Buddhist prayer wheel. If you turn the prayer wheel 9 times, it rings a 500-pound bell. The whole place feels ancient, and yet it was created recently by Portland-based artist Jeffrey Bale. Still, Jeffrey got his inspiration from Native American architecture and medieval France, and so the atmosphere of the Halls Hill Lookout is extremely unique for the Pacific Northwest. Karakoto. Karakoto, also known as the Black City, is a ruined fortress in the far western region of Inner Mongolia. Founded in 1032 AD, the city was once a center for religious learning, artistic expression, and for trading with merchants from around the globe. It was a stronghold for the Tibeto-Burman Tribal Union, occupying a small stretch of the Silk Road between North China and Central Asia. Everything was going great for about 200 years. Then, in the 13th century, Genghis Khan showed up and made things difficult for the people inhabiting the area. He was forcing the city to send him troops to help bolster his army, and when the city stopped sending men, Genghis Khan showed up with a massive force of 180,000 soldiers. In the year 1226, he conquered the Black City. However, the city didn't die, only its people did. It continued to flourish under Mongol rule until the 14th century. The biggest issue with the city was that for 40 days in every direction, there was nothing but desert and emptiness. It was a city in the middle of absolutely nowhere, with no access to fresh water. The armies of Ming China marched on the city in the 14th century, cut off the supply of traders bringing in fresh water, and the city finally fell. It was then abandoned and swallowed by desert sand, not to be rediscovered until the 20th century. The Lost Monastery. Archaeologists recently discovered the remains of a lost monastery in England. Researchers from the University of Reading found vestiges of timber buildings where nuns and monks had lived during the reign of medieval Queen Sinthrith. Sinthrith ruled in the 7th century AD as the queen consort to King Offa of Mercia. Historians have often referred to Offa and Sinthrith as the ultimate power couple of 7th century England. She was also one of the only female leaders of that time to get her face stamped on coins. She was such an influential figure that she was recognized by powerful European leaders like Emperor Charlemagne. Together, they ruled much of England with a pair of iron fists. But then something strange happened. King Offa died in 796, and Sinthrith stopped being queen. She abandoned the throne, joined a religious order, and hid away at a monastery. Researchers believe it was this very monastery where the queen spent her final years. However, we don't know what exactly she was doing at this monastery. Maybe the former queen became a nun, or maybe she just wanted to live out her last days in peace. Thanks for watching! Which of these incredible mysteries did you find the most fascinating? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye!